Welcome back, everybody, to the David Pakman Show. Luke Beasley here, filling in for David. While he is away, he'll be back tomorrow, but it's great to be back with the Pakman community once again. I've missed you guys. What a show ahead. Let's dive right into it. Speaker of the House Mike Johsnon appeared on Meet the Press yesterday with Kristen Welker and was confronted about a couple of things. The first is his hypocrisy, brutal hypocrisy on impeachment, the flip-flop on a subject related to that. The second is his opposition to the bipartisan border deal. That's essentially everything Republicans have been asking for, but now they oppose it because they don't want to give Biden a political win. But starting with this moment, Welker plays a past clip of Johnston denouncing single-party impeachments, given that he's now pursuing and leading on single-party impeachments with both President Joe Biden and Homeland Security Secretary, I should say, Alejandro Mayorkas. Take a look.
You were, as you just said, a part of President Trump's defense team at his first impeachment. Here's what you had to say about impeachment back then.
The founders of this country warned against single-party impeachments. The founders of this country warned us against a single-party impeachment. The founders of this country warned against a single-party impeachment. You know why? You guys know why. Because they feared it would bitterly and perhaps irreparably divide our nation.
What changed, Mr. Speaker?
Nothing. Nothing's changed. I would repeat the same refrain over and over because facts are stubborn things and they do not change. The Constitution does not change. Impeachment power is probably the heaviest power that the House of Representatives is given in the Constitution. Next to the declaration of war, you can argue it's the most serious power we have. And it's not to be used for partisan political purposes. That is exactly what they did for Donald Trump.
How is this different,
they were going to impeach Donald Trump before he even took his oath of office.
If that's the case, then how is this moment different now?
Kristen, in many ways. Let me explain the many ways. For one, the House has methodically, slowly, deliberately gone through the impeachment process, impeachment inquiry, impeachment investigation on Mayorkas and President Biden himself. We've involved 3 different committees of jurisdiction: Judiciary, Oversight, Ways and Means. We have followed the facts where they have led, not for political purposes, not because we take pleasure in this. It's, again, a heavy thing.
Oh, please, Mike. Kristen, that's not hypocrisy. We're involving like a bunch of committees. Think about how much time and resources has been wasted on all these impeachment hearings and investigations for what? What's been accomplished, I ask. And I talk about this constantly on my show, but if you compare and contrast the records of Democrats and Republicans in the House, the first 2 years of Biden's presidency, Democrats had the majority. This last year, Republicans have had it. And in those 2 short years under Democrats, we quite literally saw countless historic pieces of legislation. American Rescue Plan, Inflation Reduction Act, Chips and Science Act, PACT Act, the Infrastructure Law, which is the largest investment in infrastructure since Eisenhower. The Republicans get into office, and all that progress just comes to a screeching halt. And when asked to show their work, I guess their best imagined response is, we're still working on impeaching Biden and Mayorkas. For what exactly? Something about bribery and the border? I don't really know. Ridiculous. Now, what are they trying to impeach Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas over? I mentioned it there. It's the border. They don't have any evidence of an impeachable offense per se, but they're just vaguely gesturing towards issues at the southern border, which is really interesting given that at this very moment, they're working to kill a border deal that was crafted on a bipartisan basis in the Senate. That's one of the most strict, strong, and aggressive proposals on the border we've seen in decades. But again, Trump has been calling up Republicans saying, don't let it pass because he wants to run on the border. And it really is the worst of politics, choosing political gain over actually addressing problems. And here's Mike Johsnon trying to talk himself out of that.
Now, Mr. Speaker, you know as well as I do that an executive order would only be met by legal challenges. You have a chance to do something right now. The details we laid out are not rumors. That is based on negotiators who were in the room. Were you offered a briefing on this compromise bill, and will you put it on the floor?
Well, when they began to do the negotiation, I suggested immediately after taking the gavel, I suggested to Senate leadership that the House should be involved. We should be in the room. I wanted to send the chairman of our committees of jurisdiction to be a part of that negotiation, and they said, no, let the Senate take care of it. We'll send you something that is palatable.
Were you offered a briefing, Mr. Speaker?
What we're hearing right now is not.
But were you offered a briefing?
No, I have not been. No, I've had individual senators call and give me tips and offered things that are going on in the room, but we've not been a part of that negotiation. And I have been absolutely clear from day one, since literally the next morning after been handed the gavel in late October, what the functional equivalents of H.R. 2, what those are and why that was necessary to solve the problem. I took 64 House Republicans to the border in January.
Yeah. We know. Y'all go down there constantly pretending like you care about the problem until the moment arises where you actually have an opportunity to do something about it, and now you're MIA. And this exemplifies what's so wrong with the modern Republican Party. Its priority is power and politics over people. And that's playing out here so clearly. Instead of engaging on this proposal, one that, again, Republican senators are screaming that it would be stronger than anything they could get, even if Trump were president. But House Republicans refuse to engage because they think that obstruction will hurt Biden politically. Tom Emmer's came out and said that explicitly, saying he doesn't want to help a Democrat's poll numbers. And how Republican voters could look at that and not be enraged is beyond me. And on that, here is Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman calling out his Republican colleagues during an interview with Jen Psaki on MSNBC.
I wanted to ask you, because you wrote an op-ed about this, and this really stuck out to me, the hypocrisy here. I mean, they're doing this while simultaneously trying to impeach the Secretary of Homeland Security for saying, in their words, that he's not doing enough about the border. But they're blocking legislation that would help do something about the border. You have an op-ed, but give me your take on that.
Well, the cynicism and hypocrisy is startling. The House Republicans are trying to impeach Secretary Mayorkas for failing to address the problems at the border while he is negotiating with the Senate legislation that is necessary because executive action is insufficient in this situation. He is negotiating legislation that would address the border. So the House Republicans, rather than engage in those negotiations to try to find bipartisan solutions in divided government, instead are using this sham impeachment that is absolutely baseless, that demeans and debases the impeachment clause of the Constitution, turns it into a pure political weapon, and they're doing that while President Biden and Secretary Mayorkas are trying to solve the problems at the border. They are doing this purely for political reasons and political gain. And what it is showing right now is that Republicans, especially in the House, do not want to solve the problems that the American people care about. They just want power, and they just want to help Donald Trump.
Again, while there is something shocking about the whole situation, it shouldn't surprise us, because this is really the purest form, the most unfiltered form of this MAGA Republican Party. It's all about politics. It's all about obstruction. Any political pain that can be inflicted on the other side is a win. That's sort of where the own the libs phrase came from. If we can make them angry, do harm to them politically, then that's a win by itself. And as long as their voters continue to cheer that on, they'll continue to do it. And that's a really sad element of this too. It does work. The American people, when polled, do think that Biden is worse on the border than Republicans. So they can exacerbate a problem and then effectively brand it as the fault of Democrats and get away with it. Pretty remarkably horrible. And that's why the phrase facts speak for themselves is ridiculous. They don't. We have to speak on behalf of facts loudly, proudly, and aggressively so that people understand what's going on.
One of today's sponsors is Strideline, the creator of the most comfortable sock on earth. Established in 2009 by childhood friends in Seattle, Strideline has dedicated years to researching the most comfortable socks, and they really are. They present you with socks that are not only incredibly comfortable, but highly functional for an unparalleled experience. For the sports enthusiasts in the audience, Strideline will keep your feet warm on game day. As an official partner of the NFL, MLB, NCAA, and Major League Soccer, They bring you a range of socks tailored for every sports fan. But Strideline's diverse collection also includes non-sports socks like basic crew and ankle socks, as well as premium options like combed cotton and merino wool. Embracing sustainability, their eco socks are made from recycled plastic bottles that are taken out of the ocean. You can make your feet and the earth more comfortable. I grabbed a pair of fantastic New England Patriots socks, even though it's not going so well for the Pats right now. They are still my go-to when I'm watching the games. Go explore their extensive sock collection. Enhance your comfort with an exclusive 15% discount using the code DAVID at strideline.com. The link is down below.